Hello and welcome to Cast and Creatives in Conversation. I'm Chanel Bragg, your Associate Artistic Director for Arizona Theater Company.
And I am Will Rogers, your Community Engagement Manager for Arizona Theater Company. Thanks for being with us today.
Of course, we have an exciting day for you where we are going to be featuring our ATC teens. Let's go ahead and bring them on out. Go ahead and turn your cameras. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
We are so excited to have not only our teens, but one of our wonderful teaching artists as well. That was a part of the hashtag Enough project. And so we're just going to do a quick round robin. I'm going to call out one of you, then call out the other, do a brief introduction to who you are. And first up, we have Lauren.
What is up? Hi, I'm Lauren. I was in Malcolm. I played driver. My pronouns are she, her. Should I call on the next person?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Hey, Isabella. Tell me about you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Isabella. I use she, her pronouns, and I was the lighting designer for Malcolm. And let's have Anya next.
Hello, my name is Anya. I use she, her pronouns, and I was in the War to End Gun Violence, and I'm on the council, so I helped oversee everything. Zoe, go right ahead.
Hi, I'm Zoe. I wrote The War Against Gun Violence, and I was the assistant director and assistant costume designer on Malcolm. Micah, what about you?
Hello, I'm Micah. My pronouns are he, him, or they, them. I was the stage manager for Malcolm, and I also helped with some promotional art. Rourke, have you gone?
I have not. Hi, I'm Rourke. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a council member, Malcolm costume designer, and I played Andrew in The War Against Gun Violence. And Chaya.
Hi, I'm Chaya. I use she, her pronouns, and I was in the War Against Gun Violence. I played Stephanie, and I'm also on the council.
Fantastic. Thank you. That's our teens. I would love to hear from one of our wonderful teaching artists.
That's you, Alex.
Is that me? I'm so sorry. You said one of them, and I was like, oh, there's somebody else in the room, too. My name is Alex. My pronouns are they, them, she, her. And yeah, and then shall I throw it to Jasmine?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm Jasmine. I'm the Director of Learning and Education here at Arizona Theater Company. I use she, her pronouns. And this has just been a wonderful project to be part of and to bring you all into.
It's always amazing when we're talking to the ATC teens, especially because like each one of you went around, I think said like 8 different things that you're doing, and doing very well, I might add. So, and I know that both Chanel and I had the opportunity to work with many of you this summer in the digital devising class. So I know that you guys have been really like putting your heads to the collective group think about how we bring art to people in this time. And so, congratulations, you guys, for what you did with Enough. It was really impressive. So. Great job, first of all, we should say.
Absolutely. And I would love to take this opportunity to kind of launch right in. So this conversation's not going to be long today, but I do want to just kind of get an in-depth look at what being a part of this process has been for all of you. I can't tell you enough how proud I am of each and every one of you, and to see you recognized on a national platform. I was like, yes, here we are. So excited to have you. And so we're just going to get right on into it. I want to ask you, just so we can just give a general synopsis to our general public that either A, haven't gotten a chance to watch Malcolm yet, what it is about. So if one of you could volunteer to give us like a brief summary.
How about?
I will volunteer you.
I say go for it, Lauren.
Right? I was like, should I? Okay. Well, so this is for Malcolm, right? Okay.
Well, and I think I would say in all of our efforts around the hashtag Enough program. So yeah.
So hashtag Enough is basically this like wonderful project that is just bringing teens in to write and direct and produce and act in and just be everything around these wonderful plays that really shine a light on, you know, how gun violence is affecting America. Specifically for Arizona Theater Company, we did the show Malcolm, which is about a Black man named Malcolm who was killed by a police officer, and it talks about these four people and how he affected each one of them. But Zoe Stats did write a play for hashtag Enough called The War Against Gun Violence. Yeah, that was it. I was like about to blank, but and that was wonderful. And we did shoot that too with some amazing actors, and it's just been a great collaborative experience and just an amazing time with all of these wonderful creative people.
Zoe, do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about what your play is about? Just because we heard a little bit about Malcolm, but it'd be great to know.
Well, it's really, yeah, it's about these people who were affected by a Black man named Malcolm. It sort of talks about how unexpected it is and how normal it is for a person to just be living and then not, and how that really just like impacts everybody around them, and for it to be, you know, by a police officer, for it to be in a place where as stated in the play, it's a very liberal place. People trust the police there, and so it sort of reflects on the stories that don't get told as much, or maybe where you don't see these interviews told by, you know, somebody who gave him a taxi ride, or his little sister, or, you know, those people that you don't really hear so much from. And so it's that story told by the people around him.
Absolutely. And Zoe, can you give us a little bit about the synopsis of your show?
For my play, it was about a senior in high school who was trying to complete his research project, which he based it on a statistic he found talking about how more people have died of gun violence than all of the casualties in American casualties in their wars since the American Revolution. And I portrayed this through him having a dream that he was in the trenches of World War One, and he woke up to him having to do his research project. And that was basically a short synopsis of my play.
Definitely interesting. What sparked that inside of you to write that?
Back in, I want to say almost a year ago, we did I took the playwriting classes for ATC Teen, and they brought up the hashtag Enough playwriting competition, and I just started writing down the first thing that came to my mind, and I kind of forgot about it until May or June, and I wanted to finish it, so I kept working at it, and I entered it.
Zoe, sorry, Will.
No, go ahead,
Zoe,
Jasmine.
there was a statistic, right, that really stood out to you that then became kind of the centerpiece of the project. Do you want to share what that statistic was?
It was in the packet of the hashtag Enough requirements. It was an option like, hey, if you want to use one of these statistics and base it off of that. And that one really stood out to me because in history class, we were actually learning about the wars, and history has always been something that interested me. So that was kind of the first one that stood out to me, especially it's a powerful statistic about how many people have died of gun violence since 1968 compared to since the American Revolution. And it just really was powerful to me, and I wanted to use it in a script.
That's awesome. I know that as we get into doing more new work at Arizona Theater Company, you guys had the experience of workshopping your script and working on these new plays. And I would just be curious to know from the room, anyone that was involved in either project, what that was like. Maybe you've done that before. Maybe this was your first time working on a new play, but what that experience of being in a piece that is evolving feels like, and what was your experience going through that? You can just jump in.
I had never worked on like a brand new play, and I thought that it was really interesting to hear feedback like from the playwright saying, well, I don't think we should have music here to like show how the silence of Malcolm affects the silence in the community and his family members, or saying like, I think that we should have animations, or this is like how I think maybe the lighting should go. Like having that insight from the person who wrote this story out and knows how they want an audience to see Malcolm, I think that that was a really special experience that I've never gotten to feel before. And yeah, it was really interesting and I liked it a lot.
That's cool. Anyone else want to share?
I just wanted to say, working on Zoe's play, not only was it a pleasure to work on it as an actor, but it was also great to help her in the creative process of it, because this was a play in the works, and it was just a really neat experience to kind of experience it as kind of a giving feedback and helping her on it, and I really enjoyed that.
Maybe you have a future as a dramaturg.
Definitely. So one of the questions we want to ask you today is if you could like recall an epiphany that you had during the rehearsal process and around the discussion of this play. Because for me, I found it very interesting that although the play is called Malcolm, we never meet Malcolm, right? Like it's an account about him and how everyone is affected, or i.e. being interviewed, right, about their connections with this young man that is not seen. So I feel like for me, the author did a really good job at creating like and making a person also an ideal. And so I'm interested to see like what was that epiphany for you as you were in the rehearsal process of what it was like to talk about someone who wasn't in the room and to understand what they represent at this time right now.
And I just extend that out, Chanel, a little bit, like in the rehearsal room, but also I know that you guys have been having a lot of conversations around these topics around the play. You led an amazing panel, that sort of thing. So that doesn't have to necessarily be right in the rehearsal room, but epiphanies about this topic, this rehearsal process, any of that sort of stuff. Yeah, Anya.
Well, one epiphany I had was that we ended up having a really in-depth conversation about the way that gun violence has affected each of us, and kind of went around and told stories just like as an open space for vulnerability, and like talking about how sad it is that people our age are so used to gun violence in so many different aspects of existence. And I guess kind of a light bulb moment for me was when every story another person told, multiple more popped into my head of like, oh, I remember this time that I hid under my desk and like had to like help a kid like not cry, and then that almost made me cry and whatever. And like that, there's just like, I can't keep track of all the moments like that. So it was disheartening, but also enlightening to realize that like every time I heard another student's experience, I either like I had a little bit of understanding of what they were saying or what they were feeling, or it triggered another memory that I had completely forgotten about, because there was such an abundance that the little ones were locked away, and it was only the big, like the most scary moments that were at the forefront of my memory.
No, it's interesting that you said that, and in parallel with Zoe's piece, right? How you're looking to the past and making that parallel of what is going on presently. Like my generation wasn't around as much gun violence, right, as your generation is. However, as a Black woman, though, my culture has been around gun violence consistently, right? So that's something that I struggle with. But when I think about our young people today in their schools, and the drills that you have to do make me reminiscent of the bomb drills that were done back in the 50s. And so it just looks a little bit different. And so for our audience, I don't know if everyone knows what that entails. I do want to preface the conversation though with, if this is triggering, please feel free to not answer a question at all, because even I have slight triggers with this subject matter, obviously. And so I just want to make sure we make this a safe space for you to feel comfortable in talking in number one. And then number two, I don't think my generation really understands what a school drill looks like. Would one of you feel comfortable with sharing what that might look like from your perspective? And that's okay if not.
Well, every school sort of handles it differently. Every school has a different perspective of what they think might happen, or, and I've always sort of thought that the lockdown drills were kind of flawed. But I've experienced, propping up tables and getting into the corner of a room, getting under tables. I've the teacher pulls down a shade on the window to the door, turns off the lights. We all put our backpacks against the wall. I've seen a lot of different things. And I've always, as a student, thought, well, if it's Wednesday at 1 p.m., why would a shooter suddenly think, oh, school, I guess it's not in session today? I always thought, it's like, why can't we get out of here in a safe way, all get into some sort of vehicle and get out of here? But I don't know. It's really interesting to see how different schools seem to think that a shooter might be behaving or thinking.
I totally agree with Lauren. I mean, like, that's a little bit also what I was going to say, because that's always been a thought in my mind when we do those lockdown drills, soft lockdown, hard lockdown. I'm like, well, if a shooter has gone to school, they know that. Also, what if the shooter is a student? So yeah, I agree, it's kind of flawed, but I think one of the scariest things for me about a lockdown is sometimes it comes out of nowhere. Sometimes the teachers will tell you, like, oh, we're gonna have a lockdown today, so you don't freak out. But if they don't, sometimes it's like, oh, like, we don't know if it's real or not. And I think that's part of the thing, like, oh, you need to know what to do. But yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Anya?
Yeah, just to add on to what Isabella just said, I also realized that when she said, soft lockdown or hard lockdown, I had this realization that people not our generation might not also know the difference between those two. So soft lockdown is like usually just a drill. Like, it's just pretending that you're in danger so that you know how to handle it if real danger is there. And then a medium lockdown drill, in my experience, has been like one time at my elementary school, a bobcat got on campus. So that was a situation, or like a swarm of bees. So it's like, it's definitely dangerous to be on campus, but it's not like a human being with a gun. And then a hard lockdown, or like the idea of like code red, or like number 5, however you're going to categorize it. Usually, like, and when it's said over the intercom and like the teacher knows, it tends to be like, that's a serious threat. Like, a hard lockdown is a real lockdown and a real usage of all the prepping we've been doing. Just to clarify that, because it's crazy how second nature it is to anyone less than like 20-25 years old.
Thank you. Zoe, you have your hand raised.
Another thing for my school, I don't know about anybody else's school, because of course every school does it differently. And for just as an example, in my school, they try and make it as not realistic, but they don't tell anybody, not even the teachers, and they just like pretend that it's a lockdown, and then afterwards they say, oh, this was a drill, and they'll like make everybody put up the tables and cover the windows and everything as well.
We talked a lot about in both rehearsal rooms for War Against Gun Violence and for Malcolm was just the hypervigilance that comes from living with these threats all the time, and that even if you haven't personally experienced violence, when you're living in an environment where the threat of violence is all the time, then that is traumatic for you as well, and creates a trauma response in your body, and just is not great for this entire generation to be living in that environment, and to have that moving forward.
I know that some of you, some of these questions are on the same topic, so we believe in crosstalk here. So some of you, I asked if you had questions for each other, and some of you submitted those to me. And if you didn't, but now you do, you're welcome to throw those in as well. The door is not closed to that. But Lauren, I know you had a question. Would you like to bring that into the room?
Sure. My question was actually for Alex. Alex sort of, I guess, organized and helped carry along the conversation about gun violence in America and how it affects us and how it affects others. And basically every rehearsal, she had something for us to look up, or for something, for like an article to check out, or just a question that we had to ask ourselves. And my question for you was, what was it like trying to, lead a conversation with a group of mainly white people through, learning about gun violence and police brutality, and especially a group of people having to perform and portray people who are affected by that? What was that like for you?
Oof. You always ask really good questions. Wow. It was interesting. I definitely had to kind of put some defenses down from time to time that are kind of automatic. Anytime you enter a conversation or you talk about this particular issue with maybe a culture or community that's not used to it. And so, but I have to say, I was incredibly lucky in this particular situation because everybody was so welcoming and so willing to be open about this and not shy away and not become defensive and be willing to hear and be willing to share even their own misconceptions or biases. So walking into it, I was a bit weary, but actually once we kind of started talking and everybody was incredibly welcoming, it was fairly easy to go forward with the conversation and just be like, okay, well then I'm not so much like I'm going to shy away, but okay, I'm not going to hide from these things. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We're going to really be able to have an honest conversation about these issues. So thank you, Lauren.
Will, you're muted.
Well, I had a follow-up question, if that's okay, Will. And so thank you, Alex, for bringing in that perspective, because one of the questions I want to ask the room was we all have a Malcolm in our life, and whether that's we knew Malcolm personally or we knew Malcolm intimately through a major headline or through a protest rally or through so on and so forth, right? How does that make you feel, knowing that you're playing characters that were talking about someone in a fictional sense, but in a very realistic application? I mean, when I directed a play to benefit the Black Lives Matter movement, and in it, I wanted my patrons at the theater that I was directing for, I wanted them to connect that it could have as easily been me that was in that situation. And so who in your life has helped you derive that inspiration from? How have you performing in this made you think of maybe your friends in your life and understanding that they could be Malcolm? How does that sit with you, and how did that help inform your characters?
Well, the way I feel about it, it's been very hot and cold throughout the whole experience. It's been, there are people that are actually having to go through this and their friend is a headline, and there are people saying, chanting their last words on the street, and they have to deal with that. And, remember them as a person and not just this movement, and so in a way, I felt guilty being a person that hasn't had to deal with that firsthand. But in other ways, I felt really special because I get to shine light on those people, because I'm sure that the way that they feel, like just like me, lots of people can't relate to it. So I feel like I almost have a responsibility to, make people realize that that's what some people are having to go through right now. And that people are saying, oh, this person was such a nice person and they would always help people cross the street or whatever. But their close friend knew that person, knew the multiple facets of them, knew their ins and outs. And that's just something that none of us will ever have to, or hopefully will never have to understand. And so portraying that was tough in that sense.
Thank you. Another segue to that then is, and beyond this production, how has this affected your activism personally? How has this ignited in you what you're going to do, like next, right? Like, yes, putting on this play was very, very powerful, and there is a responsibility. But now that you have this responsibility and you recognize that, how do you move forward with this work?
I feel like I definitely learned a lot through this, and that I want to be more involved in activism and definitely try writing more about these topics and just really be more out there, I guess you can say, and really be more, well, you know what I mean.
One thing for me is obviously this summer, like conversations around the Black Lives Matter movement have become more heard and had. And I think one thing about working on this play specifically is realizing how tied to the gun violence and gun control issue that movement is. And like those conversations are the same conversations that need to be had and learned about for like people who are fortunate enough to not have to live those things and have that tragedy touch their lives.
Anyone else want to contribute to that? Or I'm going to shift gears a little bit, but I wanted to give anyone that wanted to respond to that a chance to.
Yeah, I think the question of, what are you going to do next is something I've asked myself a lot since this began, because this has been such an incredible opportunity for all of us to have a platform to speak that people will watch. And that's not something that after this is over, I continue to have, I am just some kid. I don't have a presence or a way to get my voice out there to too many people. But, a lot of us that were involved in this production were already members of ATC. And the opportunity to be activists just sort of fell into our laps. Like I don't know about you guys, but I at least, just saw that ATC had decided to do this. And I thought that was fantastic. And I loved everything about the project and wanted to get involved right away. But that only happened because I was lucky and happened to be involved in this place already. So going forward, this just makes me want to take initiative much more and actually seek out projects like this and not just wait for opportunities to come to me. Yeah.
That's great, Micah. And just to riff on what you're saying about you don't have this platform. Luckily, we are in this time of great equalization, right? And you guys are working in the same exact way that our production team is working on any of our digital play reading series. So, in fact, you maybe more so because you guys had to do all of you had to do everything. And so I would just be curious to know from those of you who intend to pursue a career in theater or the arts in general, or those that don't, maybe, just like what's on your mind in this time of Zoom everything, and as you're looking at a future as an artist, sort of like how do you perceive the opportunities that are available to you right now? Yeah, Chaya.
I mean, it is obviously very difficult for a lot of theaters right now to be producing shows live and all of that. But when it comes to opportunities, whether you can go in person or when we can get back in person or doing it online, just to take every opportunity that you can now, because it's only going to make you better in the future for when you can get back in person. And all the opportunities that you're taking now online are only going to make you better skill-wise, and only going to make you better skill-wise in what you want to do after this whole pandemic is over. I mean, I feel like it's super important to keep that knowledge running, even if we can't necessarily be together right now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Lauren.
I think that, first of all, theaters getting involved and still continuing to say we're going to make art no matter what, no matter the circumstances, even if this global pandemic is affecting every single one of us, mentally and physically. We're making art because storytelling is the most powerful thing that can't be stopped. That's wonderful, especially amidst all of the revolution that's happening right now. We're amidst this incredible time that will be talked about for years and years and years to come. And for theaters, especially youth theaters, to be saying that this is how we feel about it, we're taking this stance on it and we're involving people, and especially for that to go to a national scale with something like the #Enough Project, that is a huge deal. And it's such an honor to be a part of it. And as somebody who wants to go into theater in the future, there are people that will say, to take such a bold stance on something that some people will consider political. It's a choice of saying, this is the truth, this is what's happening, and I want to talk about it, and I've been given this opportunity, and it's time for me to wake people up if others won't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you guys are so cool. Anya, did you have something you wanted to contribute?
Yeah, thanks, Will. As far as everything goes with looking at how we're online, I think one thing that I've figured out is there is such an abundance of content that is being handed to us, and yeah, I would rather see a musical in the theater on a stage, but so many companies are suddenly being here is a free videotaped production of this. And I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, so many dance companies and professional ballerinas and stuff with different ballet theaters throughout the United States were offering free classes just over Instagram Live. So that was something that I quickly realized was important to latch onto and squeeze all the juice out of that you could while it was being offered, because eventually things will go back to as much as they can before the pandemic, and people will start charging for things again. But the other thing is that Instagram has been such a especially with the Black Lives Matter movement that start over the summer that came to rise, Instagram played such a major role in that. And so it became something where every day I was saving something that was like a new thread with information about just to do with Black Lives Matter or like anything on the spectrum that branches off of that. And one thing that was like my favorite thing of all was like all of these threads that I found that was like, here's dozens and dozens of cello concertos by Black composers that you should listen to. Here are plays by Black playwrights. Here are like just all these things that like weren't already just handed to me. And so that was really sweet to just soak it all up. And like I should have been doing the work in the first place to seek those things out, but Instagram made it useful that they were just provided that way.
That's great. It's a reminder to all of us that we have to do the work ourselves. We can't just rely on it to be handed to us. Absolutely. Rourke, yes, please.
I too just feel so grateful for the opportunities that going digital has offered. Like I obviously miss in person, but I feel like I've had so many more opportunities, not just like for things to do that I wouldn't ordinarily have gotten to do, but also to learn this new like format for theater making that like no current professional theater makers like were forced to learn when they were young. And I just feel excited to go into life as a theater maker after having had this experience of like being put in this box to get
you're a great role
ideas.
model for that, Rourke. I think I've seen you. I think I've seen you once or twice a week since the pandemic began in something or another. So you're a great resource for the other people too. At this point, yeah. Yeah, Zoe.
I know for me, the going digital has opened up so many more opportunities, because if all of this was in person, I probably would have never been able to do it with school and how my school schedule is and everything, that it's just made it so much easier to become involved in things.
Thank you for saying that. Oh, Micah.
Really quick, something I really value about the digital world is when it's not necessary to be in the same place, it opens up the opportunity to, I mean, this is a cheesy phrase, but connect with people from all over the world. Like literally, we have the opportunity to act and be in productions with people from different countries who speak different languages and just have so much different experiences from you that you would never interact with just going to your local community theater. So I think that's a super good opportunity.
Well, the one thing I keep hearing consistently is access. That's what I keep hearing, that you have the access to be able to see and connect with people from different places. You have the access to see work from theaters that maybe you wouldn't have had access to before, either maybe because they just didn't have a digital platform, right? Or like, so now you can watch theater in New York or watch theater in Kansas if you want to, and all of that is available to you. And as young people that are really spearheading this technological age, I do feel, and I know as cheesy as this sounds, that you are the wave of the future. See, I know that theater will be in great hands, also because you've gone through this, but because you are already ahead of the curve. Like, I know more of you that can edit on TikTok than professional editors can. Honestly, like the skills that you are learning on basic social media platforms are skills, if you choose to go into those fields later, will serve you. So absorb all this that you're learning, both in theater and in film, and see how you can apply that to your life, and whether or not you want to become a filmmaker, or whether or not you just want to be an actor who can support themselves by editing their own reels, and you're not having to pay somebody to do that for you. Like, there is a lot of knowledge that you're garnering right now that's going to help you in your careers moving forward.
It's also a great reminder, Chanel, to us all that access because of money or location is one thing, but there's also people, and we've been hearing it from many of our patrons, that maybe are dealing with people with disabilities, or people of certain age that can't get to the theater anymore, and now they can as well. So it's about allowing accessibility for everyone on both ends of the spectrum of age and of socioeconomic class, that sort of thing.
Great. Well, we have a tradition here with Creatives in Conversation, as well as Hang in Focus Live, where we like to ask our guests for a word, a single word that explains where you are right now, what you're thinking. It could be a word pertaining to the projects that you've been working on and how that made you feel, or it could be a personal word for you right now. For me, that word is gratitude. I am so, so grateful for having the young, inspiring minds that we have in our ATC Teens program. Sincerely, I back y'all 100%. And everything that you do, we just are so appreciative that you share with us on a continual basis. So my word is gratitude. I'm gonna pass it to Will.
I knew you were going to do that, and I wasn't prepared for that word. But I'm going to do another kind of large word, but hope. I think what you said, Chanel, is true, that we look at you guys, and we've been with many of you from the beginning of the summer and beyond before that, and it's really exciting. I keep looking at certain ones of you and thinking about the work that you were doing on digital devising and being like, oh my God, that was so exciting. And then to see you guys come to this point where you're making work like this. So I have a lot of hope. I'm going to go right down my Zoom line and say, Lauren, would you mind being next? And send it to someone after you're done.
All right. For sure. My word was perspective. I definitely think since the beginning of this, just this year in general, I've gained so much perspective on other people's perspective, which is why I chose that word. We're hearing from people who, especially since this pandemic, maybe don't have as many resources as others. And since the Black Lives Matter movement has been so boosted up from all of the digital community and all these people, I'm hearing more and more perspectives of people of color and how this is affecting them. And I just so much perspective going around, and I love to hear it and I love to see it. So that's my word. I'm going to pass it to Rourke.
My word is opportunity. I touched on that a little bit a minute ago, but opportunity during the pandemic, but also opportunity in this project to tell such an important story with someone from across the United States, and opportunity to tell it on such a large platform and with people I wouldn't have been able to work with ordinarily. And I have to pass it to someone. Anya.
I think I've decided that my word is new. I've just been having a lot of new thoughts, a lot of new experiences. Now that first semester is over, I finally have the space in my brain for new ideas or projects. New outlooks on life. I think my word is new. I will pass it to Chaya.
My word would be patience, most definitely. This whole year I feel like has really helped me and understand others as well. Everything's a lot more slower in the process, and as someone who doesn't have as much patience, I feel like this year has really helped me kind of help me really learn that, things are definitely gonna be much different now and after this whole thing, and you just have to be patient with yourself and with others around you to really kind of have a clear understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Micah.
I think my word is definitely admiration. It's pretty self-explanatory. That keeps coming to mind. Just, I look up to everyone in this room so much, and I have so much respect, and I'm so lucky to be able to listen to this conversation. My heart is so full. Who hasn't gone yet? Has Zoe? Go ahead.
My word would probably be the word continue, just because we need to continue with what we're doing and continue working and continue looking for opportunities and just continue. Isabella, have you gone yet?
I have not. My word would definitely be open or open-minded, because you have to have like that open mind and that space in your brain to absorb information and then manifest it into your art.
Okay, great. Alex, would you like to give us a word?
Yes, growth. There's definitely been a lot of that has happened, not just with this project, but this year. And I think especially in learning how to adapt, and learning how to kind of sit with yourself when you have so much time to do so now. And then Jasmine?
My word is definitely empowerment. I feel like my goal always in my role as an educator is to empower all of these young people and their voices. And I think that's so clear with this project. We really wanted to empower them to use their voices and use their privilege where they have it as well, to speak out about these issues, but also to empower them as artists to create and to take what comes in this entire year, learn new things, try new things, and really feel that strength and empowerment in themselves to be able to do that. So, and I definitely see you all radiating that, and that makes me really happy.
I love that, Jasmine, and also you radiate that. You've been doing amazing with what you've been doing since the pandemic and before that, honestly. But you really are. You empower all of your students, but also all of us as well, all the time. So maybe you could continue that empowerment by telling people that are watching, if they want to become an ATC teen, how could they do things just like this?
I would love to. So ATC Teen is a free program. We are running completely online right now to be able to do it as safely as possible. So you can join ATC Teen at any time, but this is a great time to join because we are kind of wrapping up our fall semester projects and classes. And in January, we'll start a whole new session of classes and projects. So joining right now is a great time. You'll get in right at the top of a new session of classes and new exciting projects that we haven't unveiled yet. So stay tuned for an unveiling of what projects and classes we're going to do the rest of the winter. But all of our shows are always directed by students, designed by students, produced by our teen council, and students can be from anywhere in the state of Arizona, but really right now, while we're virtual, anywhere in the world, and can be any age between the ages of 13 and 19. So if there's a teen at the end of the word that is your age, you are good to go. Come on down, join ATC Teen. The registration is on our website, also on our Instagram, if you want to follow us at ATC_education.
And if you are not a teen, but you wish you could do this like I do, I wish I could be an ATC teen, but I cannot. But we do have plenty of stuff for you to get involved with at Arizona Theater Company. We have an entire digital play reading series going on right now, and we are getting ready to announce a lot of exciting things. So please come around, visit our website, join our email list, and you'll get updates on all of that. And we hope to see you there and be part of the conversation. And until then, thank you for joining us today for Creatives in Conversation.